This podcast is about introducing our fans to the animals, plants, and other products that we work with at Josh's Frogs. It's an opportunity to paint a picture of our hobby that is refreshing. We want you guys to be successful with the animals that you're keeping, and we want our hobby to grow ethically and sustainably into the future. Hello, my name is Josh, and I'm here with the Josh's Frogs podcast. We're going to talk with Phil and Jayzun about jumping spiders, but before we do that, I just want to tell you that the Josh's Frogs podcast is brought to you by none other than Josh's Frogs. So we're your one-stop shop for everything you need to take care of your reptile, amphibian, or pet bug. We carry everything from the animals themselves. We're doing all captive breeding here at Josh's Frogs. We supply all you need to take care of those animals, from the caging to the substrates, to the lights, to the hides, all that kind of stuff. And then we also do the live plants. We culture those here, as well as a bunch of different bugs that we grow and can ship all in the same box. So you can order some dirt, some plants, some insects to feed your animals. We can ship it all in one box. We lead the industry in our live arrival guarantee on those bugs, 72 hours, and then also on the health guarantee on all our animals as well too. We try to take care of you, make sure that you understand what you're keeping and understand how to keep it well. So we have customer service agents available to talk you through anything or answer any questions you have via email. And then we also produce a bunch of blogs and a bunch of videos and how-to guides. Make sure that you know exactly how to take care of your animal. We want to make it easy for you to take care of those animals. So without further ado, just want to welcome Jayzun and Phil to the show. Before we start talking about jumping spiders, give us an overview, what you guys do here at Josh's Frogs. What are the kind of things that you work with?
Well, I am the curator of arachnids here at Josh's Frogs. I oversee the breeding, care, and shipping of our spider pets. Currently, that's just tarantulas and a few true spiders, but we'll be expanding to more cool stuff soon.
Cool.
And I'm the manager of microfauna here at Josh's Frogs, so I'm responsible for caring for and breeding all of our isopods, millipedes, and crabs.
Awesome. How long have you guys been here, and kind of like how long have you guys been keeping the kinds of animals that you work with here? So,
I'm pretty close in time to Phil. I think I might have been like 6 months or so for him. I'm coming up on my 5-year.
Oh, cool.
And then as far as long as I've been keeping exotic pets, I started out with a boa constrictor in the 80s. And then, believe it or not, I was arachnophobic when I first started working with spiders. And next thing you know, I'm in love.
Oh, that's cool.
And for me, it's probably been about 4 years now here in the next few weeks, and pretty much lifelong, I would say. I've just always had some kind of exotic pet.
That's cool. All right, we're gonna talk about jumping spiders. Tell us, what is a jumping spider? What the heck is a jumping spider, and why have they become so popular?
Well, there are a particular group of spiders called the Salticidae, and there are a few things that are interesting and somewhat unique about them. They have big eyes that are very functional. They can see well, whereas most spiders can't. And they are day-active roamers, whereas most spiders are sit-and-wait predators. Mm-hmm. But as far as why are they so popular, that's pretty interesting. I would say that story starts back in 2017, when a man named Joshua Slice, an up-and-coming animator, wanted to show his nephew, Lucas, that spiders could be endearing. And he decided to start out with a jumping spider because the big eyes and they're reactive. Mm-hmm. And he had a 7-year-old nephew that he named the spider after, Lucas, voice it. Mm. And it was endearing. This is what Lucas looks like. Mm. Many of you have already seen him. If you haven't, go check it out. It's absolutely endearing. But that exposure, and then combined with the rise of TikTok, mm-hmm. All of a sudden people whose main exposure to spiders has been the contagious fear. Oh my God, spiders are scary. And for some reasons, some are dangerous, most aren't. But it's actually the second most common phobia in America is arachnophobia. Mm-hmm. But now, because of that exposure, that fear is being replaced by fascination.
Yeah.
And people are saying all the cool things about them, like jumping spiders will chase lasers, laser pointers. They'll hop up on your hand of their own choice and check you out because they're curious creatures. And really what it all comes down to, what makes them so special is what I mentioned before, is those eyes.
Yeah.
What a difference those eyes can make. Now,
Yep.
tarantulas also have 8 eyes, but they're all in the front, so they don't have a great field of vision. They have no lenses. So, like, say, people may have heard the black rhino is a very defensive creature.
Yeah.
That's because he can't see for anything. He doesn't know if you're friend or foe until you're right upon him. So
Yeah.
he just assumes and yeets. But zookeepers who know them know they can actually be quite affectionate.
Yep.
For those of you who knew Jello at Powder Park Zoo.
Mm-hmm.
So it's those eyes. These big eyes allow this spider to evaluate his environment at a much greater range.
Yep.
So much so in such detail that they can actually recognize different humans as friend or foe.
Wow.
Many people have had a jumping spider in their office, and some people tolerate the spider, some people feed the spider, and some people are out to get the spider. And the spider will learn to recognize the ones that are out to get them.
Wow.
So it's that, and the fact that these guys are day active hunters, whereas tarantulas are nocturnal sit and wait predators. They're active at night when we're asleep, and they hide until the food comes to them.
Wow.
Whereas these guys are active. They got personalities. They're checking things out. There's so many different enrichment things that are people putting into their environment and watching them explore. Little acorns that they'll hide in and make nests in. So there's a lot more that they're doing, and people are really falling for them. In fact, today, whereas arachnophobia is the second most common phobia in America, keeping pet jumping spiders is the fastest growing pet in America.
It's unbelievable to see how much they've taken over some of our shows, our trade shows, with people selling them. They've become really popular. We get a lot of questions about those. So I guess, Phil, will you walk us through some of the different jumping spiders and what they are and what's available in the hobby?
So to give a kind of example of something that's going to be similar to what we have on hand on the website right now, this is going to be a dragon's breath female Phidippus regis. See if she's willing to say hello today. She's usually pretty friendly, so we should be able to get her out. Now, she is just full grown, so she is just molted recently. So she could get a little bit bigger than this and definitely will swell up when she's full of eggs. There we go.
She wants to explore.
Well, she has to have trust. Now, if that was his pet, she would know him and she would trust him.
Yeah.
But now she's wondering why the feeding guy is taking her out of the enclosure. Is everything okay?
Correct. So typically, especially with mine, I have more of a connection with the ones I've had longer because I've had more time to interact with them. So currently, I have a lot of gravid females that are a lot more personable. It was a little more dangerous to move them. So I brought a lot of young females with us today. So they're going to have a little bit more attitude, but as you can see, she's stopping to investigate. She knows she's no longer in danger and that I'm not going to eat her. Oh, that was my warning. I shouldn't try that again.
She was she's currently facing, now she's facing me. She can hear me talking, and now she's facing and evaluating me.
And you can see her front eye. She's going to point those wherever she's looking to get a focus on what she's hearing and seeing. That's going to be me and Jason right now, but if we were to start talking in, she'll head on over wherever she feels is.
And what type of jumping spider is this?
This is a Phidippus regis. Now, this is the dragon's breath color form, so this is going to be very similar to the oranges we have available. The main difference here is going to be that her chelicerae are hot pink. Now, it's going to be really hard to see those when she's in this kind of mood. So we're actually going to get her back in there. See if you can catch a glimpse of those.
I see that. Do you know our hot orange's mom is chelicerae are pink?
Interesting. So it should be very similar. And that's one of those colors. So a lot of people have theorized that those colors on the chelicerae are genetic. It's very possible, just due to the amount of variety you'll see. So we'll get into this next one.
Now, I just stop you before you pull out the next one. Jumping spider, I would have assumed to have been jumping, hopping all over you. How often are they jumping? Why is that a part of their name?
I would say it's mostly going to be as like a hunting mechanism and a defense and a way of traversal. They're definitely going to jump just kind of when they're exploring, but it's usually like little hops and skips when they're, as you saw.
I saw it does do that
hand.
a couple of times. That was really cool. I guess with the name, I get this impression that like you get it out, boom, 6 feet away, it's hopping, and like you're just it's
Actually,
like
I'd like to answer that.
yeah.
There's a common myth about the tarantula that jumps like 6 feet at a person.
Yeah.
The reason that jumping is in its name is actually something that's uncommon for spiders.
Interesting.
Remember, we talked about the eyes. Tarantulas can't see very far away from them, so they don't know how far the ground is. They also imagine you kept all of your important organs in a leather water balloon attached to your butt. You're not going to risk falling.
Yeah.
So, although tarantulas will jump if they feel they're in enough danger, it's something they will really eschew doing. Whereas jumping spiders, having that distance vision, they can actually use it to hunt. If you watch them hunting flies, and boom, they'll hop right onto the fly.
Interesting.
Or if they're not in the mood to put up with your stuff this morning, they'll hop right into your lap.
Awesome.
Correct.
All right, Phil, show us another one.
All right. So this girl here is going to be a peach Phidippus regis, and she's going to have violet chelicerae. She's going to be very similar to the last one, and pretty similar in tone, I would say. She's going to be on the lighter scale of the regis, which will be similar to our gray and whites we're currently selling. She's going to be a bit more tan than they will be.
So what are the difference on all these color morphs? They're all the same species. So
these
why is that one a dragon and one a peach?
So all of these different color forms are different localities that are actually found in different places. So Phidippus regis has the largest range, I would say, out of the Phidippus, just generally speaking, because you can find them as far south as the Bahamas and the islands, and as far north as Quebec and Canada.
Oh my
And
gosh.
So everywhere along that, you have all these different size and color and pattern related localities that are going to have different tendencies in their traits.
That's cool.
So they're not always going to be exactly what you'd expect, but for the most part, you're going to see like a dominance of a particular trait.
Oh, interesting. That's really cool. That's really cool. Similar sizes throughout that range?
I would say for the most part, they're all similar, but we can kind of get an idea of just how big some of them can get if we pull this girl out here.
Well, let's bring that up. I'll make an analogy to understand those physical trait differences. Humans have adapted all over this planet, and over millennia, we've adapted to where we've been. So, on the whole, there's a range of humans from Lindsay at barely over 5 foot, and I don't know if you've seen Donald Trump's kid Barron. He's like 7 something.
Yeah.
But people from certain areas tend to have physical tendencies.
Yep.
And same thing with physical looks, and that's the difference between these.
So this is going to be one of the sweeter girlies, if I can get her to calm down a little
Not
bit.
sweet today.
She's generally pretty friendly.
She's gorgeous.
Now this is going to be a dark form, and you can see as compared to the last two, she is almost completely black like her male counterparts.
Oh, wow.
And she's actually about 3 times the size of the last two we looked at. Now, this isn't even as large as they get, so she will get about double this size.
She's pretty plump.
She's currently full of eggs. She's not actively gravid because she has not been paired yet, but she's getting ready to.
Wow.
She does a good example of showing off what I say. Regis have what I call a smiley face on their butts.
Yeah.
If you come back with a above look, you'll see she has a little band right between her abdomen and her head part, the thorax. A little nose, a little dot in the center, 2 little eyes on top. So it's a little happy face.
Now you talked about breeding her. Like, how do you do that? I'm guessing you're not keeping the male with her now. Would you introduce the male?
As opposed to a lot of other spiders with jumpers, you have that risk that both the male and the female could potentially eat each other during mating.
Oh my gosh.
So it's not that worried about the male being the only one at danger there. So you do have to introduce them carefully. It's generally one of those things where you're going to watch it. But with all of the jumpers, they have very unique and in-depth courtship behavior. So the second that they are kind of within range of another of their species, a male or female, they're going to start dancing.
Oh, wow.
So most jumping spiders have some kind of courtship dance, whether that's drumming their arms and making noise with their chelicerae, or that's waving the pattern underneath their legs like a flag to get their attention. However they need to do it, they're going to try and dance their way into her heart. So,
Wow. So you're keeping these solitary in captivity.
Yep,
Totally
absolutely.
separate all the time.
A lot of people will cohab juveniles until they're probably I4, I5, and I would say that's generally fine, but you definitely want to keep them separate once they get to this.
I4, I5, I know what that means. What does that mean?
That would be their 4th and 5th instar, are about halfway through their lifespan.
Cool.
The
Very
spiders
pretty.
that we have here that we're selling are all sitting at 5i. Actually, this is 6i, and they grow so very fast. If you look at the little ones I have later, this one's half the size of this, and it's just 1 molt difference.
Oh, wow.
And in 2 more molts, they'll be 2/3 of that size.
So from baby to full adult size, how long of a time frame are we
Like
talking?
6 to 7 months for most
Okay,
species.
cool, cool. And then how long are they living after they are full grown?
So females are going to live for about 2 to 3 years in a lot of cases, especially in captivity if they're getting proper care. Full daylight cycle and feeding every few days and misting. Males are generally going to be hard pressed to live over a year, but I've
Gotcha.
seen it happen. I do have a male with me today that's a little over a year old,
Oh wow.
and he's doing just fine. Seems to be just healthy, but it is above the average for
Oh
sure.
cool. Oh cool. Oh cool. Cool. Show us another one.
Yeah, so that's going to be this guy here, and this is going to be one of the ones we're hoping to offer in the near future. This is a Phidippus adumbratus. So this is a shadow jumper. This is a male, and he is a sweetheart always. If he'll cooperate with coming out.
What's his full size relative to the Regis?
So he is going to be a full-grown male, and because he's that old, he's definitely lost size. He was probably about twice this on his abdomen when he was full-grown. And I'll show you a female next to get a kind of comparison, but I would say fairly similar to some of those smaller adult Regis we just saw. So this guy here, as you can see, is going to kind of have a little bit of a thinner abdomen, and that's just due to how old he is, because he should not be around this long. I'm so glad he's still sticking around, and you can see those awesome stripy pants and that bright red abdomen.
Yeah, the red is really striking.
like to
Even from
point
here,
out-
I'm 6 feet away and I can see.
Right. They
that's
just
really
stand
cool.
out with such brilliant colors, too. Some of these guys are just absolutely amazing.
I'd like to point out something that I think is funny that that spider just demonstrated. A lot of people, because they're phobic, think spiders are gross. They didn't stop to think whether or not they would
gross.
think we were gross. Actually, what they think is gross about us is our hair. As he started walking onto Phil's forearm and started touching the hair, he's like, "Oh God, yuck! It's hairy. Get me off."
So this is going to be a similar sister species to the Regis. This is a treetop canopy jumper. This is going to be a female orange.
Treetop jumper. So
They are up at the tops of trees.
really,
They also have the unique ability to stridulate very loudly like a bird. And so due to them being so high up like that, when they feel threatened by those predators, they're going to make bird noises to chase them away.
interesting.
So as long as she doesn't feel threatened, she shouldn't be too noisy for us today because she's usually awesome. This would be one I would recommend if you wanted to give it a shot, Josh.
All right, I'll try it.
You want to stand up to him, or do you want me to pass?
You can pass if you're comfortable. She is very back flippy, but she will generally stay. As you can tell, back flippy.
Silly girl.
She's nice and friendly. I get her out quite a bit just because of how pretty they are. So this is going to be a Phidippus otiosus, and they're one of the closest related spiders to Phidippus.
Yep, I got her. Yep, she's just on my leg.
So they're going to be in the same family group as the Phidippus regis, and they're very similar, and they can actually hybridize.
What am I seeing green in the very front, like her
That's
mouth?
going to be her chelicerae there, glowing for you.
What are chelicerae, Phil?
They
Yeah.
are attached to the fangs.
So if you imagine fangs being a knife, imagine the chelicerae being the light knife blade.
Very pretty. Now, we're handling these. How often are you recommending that people actually handle?
The more you interact with them, the sweeter they're going to be. I mean, just in general, you can see like they're all going to have their own temperament. She's a bit jumpy, but in general, the more you handle them, the better they're going to be with you, especially if you start off while they're smaller. Those adults are going to have to definitely get used to and trust you. But pretty much, I would say as much as you want. I wouldn't say it doesn't like stresses them out too extensively. They don't ever seem like too, they all have their personality, but none of them ever seem to be,
I just noticed, like, as she was moving around, I don't feel like she was trying to get away from me. Like, I'm sitting, she clearly could go that way and get away from me. It was more of like, hey, I want to explore this. Like, oh, this looks cool. Hey, I want to
Right.
explore his lap, and I want to head this way and up my stomach. It was just very exploratory. Whereas other animals that I feel like are skittish, they'd be over in the corner of the
right.
room.
And they're not kind of giving you that behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
Not add to what Phil said is read their body language.
Yeah.
A spider that's comfortable can hang out for quite some time. A spider that's fearful, the longer they're out, the less well they're going to do.
Wow.
A good, what is your measure of this is too much? If it's not eating when it should be eating and it's losing weight, that's a sign that for one reason or other, the spider's not comfortable, whether it's with being handling, where their environment is, where it could be can have a difference. They're very sensitive to vibrations.
Yeah.
So should you put their environment somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic going by,
Yeah.
like, well, why doesn't my spider ever adapt to me? It's because it's hard to make friends when you're in a fearful
Yep.
situation.
Yep. Very
So
much
make
so.
sure they have a comfortable life, then approach them.
That's cool.
And it's always worth noting as well. They'll show you as well. They'll do
Yeah.
the threat pose like any other spider will. So they'll raise those front arms and show you those teeth, like the first one we had out did when she was looking at me. That was her little warning: "Don't touch me again." And that's generally your way to know to back off for
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's really cool. Now, what are you feeding these jumping spiders? We mentioned flies. Like as babies, what are we feeding them? What are we feeding adults?
So when they're brand newborn, they're going to eat male maggots and brand newborn males.
Oh wow.
Once they're about probably 6, 7 days old and they've consumed the yolk, after that point, they're going to eat males and Heidi eyes until they're about I4, I5, and they'll still eat flies during that. But at that point, you can start trying to introduce pinhead crickets and stuff like that. Once they're to like that I5 size, like how we're selling them, they generally can take down prey that's twice the size of themselves.
Are you
So
serious?
after
Wow.
that point, every molt that they go up, you want to just be giving them something that's about the same size they are, if not larger.
That is
Especially these
unreal.
adult females are all eating 1-inch crickets.
That has got to be something fascinating to watch.
Oh,
It is,
absolutely.
but I would add to that the one caveat is
Yep.
that is an adjusted spider
Yeah.
that's used to their environment. If you have a brand new spider and you're offering it larger prey, then it may not have the confidence to go after
Yeah.
it that it would have in a home that it was already adapted to.
Wow. Oh,
And it's worth noting as well that with those larger prey, you only want to introduce one at a time, because with a lot of those
Yep.
prey items, with it being also an invertebrate, they could potentially damage them if you put it, say, a bunch of crickets in the
Yeah,
enclosure.
yeah.
So you only want to do one at a time.
interesting. Now you talked about its home. Would you recommend people set up jumping spiders? What's too small of a house? What's too big of a house? What are some guidelines you give people?
Well, I've got something I'd like to share about that. When it comes to keeping tarantulas, one of the things that make them such easy captives is they don't need very much space.
Mm.
I have a Goliath bird eater that's not full size yet. It's only about 7 inches. And it's got an 18 by 18 enclosure, of which it uses about 7 inches. But when it comes to the jumping spiders, because they're day active hunters,
Yeah.
even from a very small size, the fellow in here is about 3 times the size of a Heidi fruit fly.
Mm.
But even when I first got him, and he was the size of a melanogaster fruit fly, I still had him in this size enclosure, and I wouldn't put him in anything smaller.
Gotcha.
Gives them some space, and also you'll notice they like to find little pockets to make homes in. Here I've glued little tubes
Mhm.
in Phil's enclosures. He's put little sticks in there.
Kind of see here,
And why is that important? Because that's where they're going to choose to make their little nests.
as
Gotcha.
you can see this here.
Her little nest is right there.
Definitely up the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's not all of them. That's going to be any of the like tree dwelling or treetop dwelling species.
Yeah.
There are a lot of ground species that'll nest on the ground and stay on the ground as well.
Interesting. Interesting. Anything else to keep in mind when you're setting up? Like I see you guys have some substrate in there. What should we work for when we're talking about humidity and temperatures? How do we best provide an environment for them?
Well, first I'm going to answer for the species that we have, because we only have one species, and normally you only see 2 species in the hobby, the Regis and the Audax.
Okay.
Phil, who I'm calling Phidippus Phil, the Salticity King, is about to blow the doors off that.
Yeah.
And add maybe as many as 22 species.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so excited. So first I'm going to answer my question. So the Phidippus Regis and the Phidippus Audax, when they're older, they're very dry tolerant and moisture intolerant.
Mm.
So if you keep them in too humid environment, you can wind up with problems. You just got to make sure they got access to drinking water by spraying the side of the enclosure like every other day.
Yep.
But when they're younger, they're a lot more dry intolerant.
Interesting.
So what I'll do is either keep them in an environment that has at least 50-60% humidity, or I will keep their substrate. Here I'm using coco coir, And coco coir absorbs water well, but dries up quickly and evenly, releasing the moisture that it's losing
Yeah.
into the atmosphere to rate and absorb, keeping that humidity up.
Mhm.
So I'm not going for like 70% humidity rainforest, but I like to try to make sure it stays at least 50 to 60% until they're like 6i, 7i, and then they're really rugged, adaptable spiders.
Yeah, and the live plants will also raise the humidity up. They're sucking some of
Absolutely.
that
It helps a
moisture out
lot.
of the substrate. That's really cool. That's really cool.
I would agree. That's would be about the same as how I do all of them. The only difference I would say would be for some like these desert species, which would be those ground guys we were talking about. So these guys need very little moisture at all their whole lives because they very rarely even see
Wow.
it. So a lot of these species come from like the Sonoran Desert, for example. So this guy is going to be a Phidippus nikites or a cinder jumping spider, and you can see why they get that name when we pull him out here.
You guys need to come back and get pictures of this animal. Oh my god. Oh my
He
god.
has bright blue chelicerae and that orangey red cap and that yellow abdomen.
Wow, what a
Now,
pretty spider.
these guys are going to need a lot of the desert species need a lot less moisture. So
Mhm.
what I like to do is try and keep a paper towel cup in there for them like this. That
Oh,
way I'm able to take a pipette and put it down in the center. So there's only a small, dense, wet area down there, but they
interesting.
are able to kind of go in as far as they want and get that moisture they
Oh,
need.
cool. Oh, cool. Now, as far as feeding, are the desert ones eating less than the other ones? Or
They
they
are eating less frequently. I would
Gotcha.
say I feed the Regis probably every other day, where a lot of the desert species eat every 2 to 3 days because they
Yeah.
will just refuse meals.
Interesting. Interesting. And size wise, are the desert ones tend to be a little bit smaller?
I would say a little bit smaller. You can see this guy here. He is a male, so he's going to be a little bit smaller than the females, but they're not going to be too much bigger than this. Generally, I would say most of them fit onto like a dime or a nickel size.
Cool. Cool.
For size relative, I would point out that the Regis is very large among the salticity.
Mm.
There are a few others that are larger, but I'd say I'd put them at the 90% range, and most of them are going to be a little to a lot smaller. Like the very famous Australian peacock jumping spiders, they're smaller than a kernel of corn.
Are you serious? Wow, that's a tiny little spider.
They can party on your thumbnail.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool. Anything else that you would like to tell us about keeping jumping spiders that people should keep in mind if they're gonna want to be successful? Any tips or tricks that you want to tell them on how to be successful keeping them and or breeding them that you want to leave people with?
Get yourself a good supply of food
Mhm.
because they do need small food, and most people aren't lucky enough to have a pet store that has small feeders.
Yeah.
That's where I hope you know what a great boon Josh's Frogs to our hobby, that you can have whatever feeders you need delivered
Yeah.
right to your door. So that can mean to make sure you have fruit fly clusters when they're tiny.
Yep.
Make sure that you're able to get small crickets when they're still small. So having a source of food is important to make sure you have.
Cool. Cool.
And I would say just patience is key. Just, staying on the routine and
Mhm.
remembering to stay patient, because a lot of the time, as a new keeper, you're going to get worried with the kind of weird
Yep.
behaviors they might have. And it's just going to take that time to kind of see how they're like and
Cool.
get used to them.
Cool. Thanks for educating us on one of the cool new species that's kind of taking over our hobby. We're gonna do a lightning round. Just give me the first thing that comes to your mind. If you don't know, if you can't think of an answer, then skip it. And I know you guys have both done this, so we'll see if your answers have kind of changed. If money and space were no issue, what's your dream pet?
Well, how can I brain fart? A parenti monitor.
Oh, really?
10,000 gallon South American aquarium.
That would be cool. I have to put that on the ground level.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Besides Josh's Frogs, what's another business in our hobby that's doing something really cool? Either a breeder that's doing some really cool stuff or a company that's making a really cool product.
I pitched it before, but that's where my heart is when it's not at Josh's Frogs. Preuss Pets in Old Town Lansing.
Yep.
Pet store of the difference and a destination location. It's take a date there. It's fun.
Yeah. If you're within a day's drive of that place, you should make a trip there. Yeah, really cool.
I'm going to switch it up this time and shout out for Exo-Terra, because I think they make some really good products. I love
Yeah.
those enclosures.
That's cool. That's cool. All right. You have an hour of free time. What are you doing with your hour of free time? No one's bothering you. What are you doing for an hour?
Documentary.
Okay.
Not bad. Breeding spiders here.
Cool. All right. Last question, probably the hardest question. You got everybody's ear. Everybody's listening to you. What's one piece of advice or one thing you tell people to remember what would you tell people if everybody's listening to you and you got your one chance to give them a little bit of knowledge or ask them to remember something? What would you say to them?
Do your research.
Whenever possible, be kind and generous.
Cool. All right, thanks guys for dropping some wisdom on us on the jumping spiders. Phil and Jayzun are staples here at Josh's Frogs. A lot of the articles we have are written by them, videos, that kind of stuff. They're doing a lot of the care for a lot of the cool stuff that we're breeding and producing. So please check out some of their other stuff. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoy this content and want to stay up to date, make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us across social media. We always want to bring you the best content, so let us know what you think in the comments. And for all your reptile and amphibian needs, be sure to check us out at joshsfrogs.com. We have an amazing selection. Until next time, stay curious, stay froggy, and keep exploring.